Hi, my name is Jay Gilly, and I'm here today to show you all a few tips on how to steam crabs Maryland style. I've been a waterman most of my life, and I'm kind of a part-time waterman now. I'm getting out of it a little bit, but I'm still into crabbing and fishing and hunting and doing all that kind of stuff. But today our main objective is to show you how to cook these crabs. And we're going to start here in a couple of minutes. Before we get started, there's a few items and things that you need to know about. One is you either got to make sure you got a pair of gloves, a good set of thick gloves, such as these, or a pair of tongs. Now these tongs, they work, they serve the purpose. However, if you're getting real big crabs, you might get bit. They also make a commercial grade tong, which I don't have with me at this time, but they sell them in all kinds of retail stores. They're much larger and they're good for the bigger crabs, such as jimmies. You'll need actually a quart or pint jar. You want this to measure your water, and you need a beer. Any type of beer will work. I just happen to have this type as we're here. And you're also going to have some vinegar. These three will combine to make your solution, which you'll pour in the bottom of your pot, which you'll see in just a few minutes. This here is, there's many different types of seasoning on the market nowadays. This is just a generic brand that I use, and I put my own little secret stuff in there, if you want to say. But it's pretty good stuff. You can either buy just a few to touch on. There's J.O. seasoning, comes out of Baltimore, Maryland, and there's McCormick brand seasoning. It also comes out of Baltimore, and that's just a few to touch on. Today we're going to be using this ceramic pot. It's pretty simple. This pot here will fit about 3 dozen crabs. It also comes with a bottom. Now this bottom, you can either take a pie plate and make yourself a bottom, or those vegetable steamers sometimes work really well if you just have a soup pot. They're the kind that open up in a clam and they go down in. What you want to do is keep your crabs out of the liquid. We're steaming crabs this way, we're not boiling them, so you don't want to have a lot of liquid around your crabs. You can see ceramic pot. They also make a stainless steel pot. Now we're only going to steam about 3 dozen crabs in this process because that's what most people would eat at a general setting. If you want more information on a big stainless steel pot, you just have to let me know or stop at your local retail store and they will give you information on it. Now it's pretty simple how you put these ingredients in here. You add, what we want to do is add like a quart of water. So I'm going to use 2 pint jars full of water here. And then we'll use our beer. Once we have our beer in, we'll use about 1 pint of vinegar. Depending on the size pot you have, you might use a little more of each substance, water, vinegar, or beer. The idea is to keep enough ingredient in the pot so that it's about 1/4 to 1/2 inch below, in other words, below this line. Because when you steam the crabs, if they're heavy crabs or if they're light crabs, sometimes they have a lot of water in them. And if the water runs out of the crabs, it will come over your grate here and get your crabs wet, and which means it's not very good when you go to serve them. They're drippy and they're messy, and you don't really want that. But if you keep your water level or your ingredients level here just about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch below this grate, when you put it in the bottom of your pot, you'll be fine. Once you have your crabs and they're in the bushel baskets, a lot of people will either to save the claws, so the claws don't break when you're cooking the crabs, they can either take an ice pick and they stick the crabs. I don't care to do that myself because I think that once you stick the crabs, of course it's going to kill them, but it lets all the juice content that's in the crab that really gives it that moisture flavor in your meat, it lets all that run out, and I think you lose that flavor. So suggestion that I would make is taking a sink or an ice chest or something when you go purchase your crabs and have them packed in ice, and that way what it does is it lowers their metabolism, and the crabs will really slow down, and when you put them in the pot it makes them a lot easier and they're a lot docile, and it's really easy to work with the crabs. This crab here, these crabs are actually pretty heavy crabs. These are female crabs. They have the red claws. That's the easiest way to tell. And this crab here is a Jimmy crab. He's a male crab, and there's the, if you can see there's the difference between the two. The female has the red claws, and the male has the more bluer claws, the blue crab. So we'll go ahead and start putting these in our pot. We'll bring this over here. What you want to do is stack these crabs in here. You want to get a layer of crabs, and then try to put a layer of seasoning on. Okay, once we got about, let's say, 10 crabs in the pot, push them down in there so they're not out biting us. What we want to do, one thing you want to do is when you're always handling these crabs, you never want to, once these crabs are steamed, don't use these gloves again. Don't use those tongues again, because what you're going to do is you're going to take the raw bacteria from these live crabs that you have on these gloves, and you're going to put them on your steamed crabs, and then you're going to eat it. And that's a no-no. That can either make you really sick or really even kill you. So that's one thing you don't want to do. Now we're just going to, what we want to do here is just lightly take a layering of season and put on the crabs. You can season these crabs however you want. A lot of people, if you like them hot, you put a lot of seasoning on there. You can either add some extra red pepper, black pepper on top of the crabs, and some salt. I already have most of those ingredients in this seasoning, but celery seed works well, mustard seed works well, different types of seasonings like that. What you have to do is get the crabs and experiment with them to your own taste. That's the best way to do this. A lot of people like cutting up onions, putting onions on top of these, taking corn. What you can do is take the corn, leave it in the husk. After you get your layers of crabs on there, you lay the corn on top, and this corn steams with the crabs. When we're steaming these crabs, it usually takes, depending on what type of stove you have. Today we're using electric stove, gas stoves. Sometimes people use gas burners, depending on the size pot you may have. This stove here, which is just a regular Whirlpool conventional electric stove, takes about 40 minutes, and these crabs will be done. What you don't want to do when I'm steaming these crabs is, the reason I tell you to put so much liquid in the bottom, if you ever run out of liquid, you've ruined the crabs. You might as well it will stink up your whole house, and it will make a mess of your pot. I mean, you can literally just throw them away because they're known to be no good. So that's one thing, one pointer that you really would like to keep in mind is you make sure you keep enough liquid in that pot. And what you don't want to do is overcook them, because when you overcook them, you either burn them or you can, you basically just ruin the crabs. Let me get cooking here. Some more. Get another good layer in here. As you can see, I'm using the same gloves to put the crabs in once I have the seasoning on, but that's not a problem. When we cook the crabs, everything in this pot will be steamed and it will be hot, so it will basically kill anything and all the bacteria that's on these crabs or on these gloves or around here at all. In Maryland, crabs have to be 5 inches. Usually, the number 2 crab, which is this, is 5 to 5.5 inches. point to point. Point to point. The crabs are measured from this point to that point. Ouch, this one's got my finger pretty good. This would be called a number 1 crab. It's a Jimmy. It's a male crab, and it's big and heavy. Females, like I showed earlier, have the red claw. They also have to be 5 inches. Now this is a mature female. There's also immature females, but you're not allowed to keep them unless you have a sloughing operation or peeler operation in the mouth. I whip my hands off because I don't like getting that seasoning in my gloves.